Welcome to this webinar on the Google Analytics new features. We really appreciate the extreme interest in this. There's over 500 people here, and we're excited that you want to learn more about Google Analytics. My name is Di Pham, and I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Google, and I lead the global marketing team for Google Analytics. I'm also joined by several of my team members on both the product and the support team. I wanted to just let you know that this webinar will be recorded and it will be made available to you afterwards, as well as to anyone who couldn't attend, and that we'll be saving some time to go over questions, primarily the questions that you voted on and submitted beforehand. If you do have some questions about some of the content you see here, you can submit it through the Q&A, and some of our team members will try to answer that. But please try to keep it to the information that's here. Great. So with that, let's get started. As you know, in October, we released a new set of Google Analytics features that builds upon the enterprise class capabilities that you're already familiar with, such as advanced segmentation and custom reports. We really feel that these features add a lot more power, flexibility, and intelligence to the product, and all of these, the new features that we announced previously should all be available in your accounts as of last week. So we thought it would be a good time to go and review those in case you have any questions. So these are the features, and in addition, you'll see what we're calling a holiday bonus. Earlier this week, our Senior Product Manager, Phil Mui, announced at SES Chicago a set of new features that continue to build upon the power, flexibility, and intelligence. So we'll just go ahead and jump in. So one of the things that we've heard time and again is that you need more goals. 4 was not enough. So we're happy to have expanded that to 20 goals per profile. And you can see that these goals are now organized into 4 sets. And you can choose which set of goals that you want to place them in. So 4 sets of 5 goals each. Hopefully that'll be enough to meet all of the types of goals that you might have for your website. So moving on, now that we have 20 goals, we're really excited that we've also expanded to have engagement goals. So as you know, before you could track page view goals. So those are goals that relied on reaching a certain page on your website. This is really great if you have like an e-commerce site or someone signs up for an e-newsletter and they get to a thank you page. But if you're a content site, maybe you have a blog or you're a publisher site, you may want to be able to track your visitors' engagement with your website. So now you're able to do that with two new goal types that are based on time on site and pages per visit. So just to walk through an example of a time on site goal and how you would set it up, you would define the goal name, make it something intuitive because this will appear in your goal set, and you would define where it would appear, which goal set you want to include it in, define the type of goal, and then below is where you define the threshold for the goals. So we want it to be a visitor who spent greater than 5 minutes on a site, so here we say greater than 4 minutes and 59 seconds. You can also decide to set a goal value as well. And you would walk through a similar process for the pages per visit type of goal. Some best practice recommendations that we suggest here is to group your goals by the conversion types. So like all your transaction goals, put them into goal set 1, and your engagement goals, to put them into a different type of goal set. Something that you should also keep in mind is as you increase the goals, that your overall site-wide conversion goal rates may increase. And so you really should define goals that make sense for your site and your objectives. Next, we're really happy to expand our mobile reporting, and we have several aspects here. So before this launch, what Google Analytics could do was to track basically JavaScript-enabled phones, the HTML from JavaScript-enabled phones, because we're a tag-based solution. So today, we're now able to track not only websites, but also applications. And we're able to track mobile websites on non-JavaScript enabled devices, so like on just kind of your regular WAP or feature phones. So let's drill into this a little bit more. If you're expanding your marketing campaigns or you have a mobile website, what you would do is it would provide a server-side code to generate the calls to Google Analytics. So this, like we said, would track all web-enabled devices, not only those that are JavaScript and cookie-enabled devices. Currently, we're supporting this for the PHP, Perl, JSP, and ASPX platforms. We've also made this super easy to get started with now with our new setup wizard. And this is something that we also announced at SES Chicago. Here we have an example where we're setting up a mobile website, and you can click on the radio button in the setup wizard and specify which language, server-side language that you're using, and it'll generate the correct code for you. While we're here, I just wanted to point out this new setup wizard also covers the different types of implementations that you might have for your site, such as if you have multiple domains or multiple subdomains, you can go here and get the code to be used on your site. And so we hope that this helps make setting up tracking across different types of implementations easier. Next in the mobile, expanded mobile reporting is the ability to track mobile applications. As you know, this has been booming in both iPhone and Android applications. And so now you can track a mobile app similar to how you would track your own website. So there are two basic types of user interactions within a mobile app. There are the page views, which you would use to calculate the visits, the session length, and the bounce rate. And it's up for you to decide what actually triggers a page view and the names that you would want to appear in the in the content report. The second type of interaction is an event, and that uses the basic or the same event tracking docs and the same event tracking setup that you're currently familiar with if you're using event tracking. So basically with mobile apps, you can imagine you're able to understand what versions of the mobile apps users are using, or if a user gets to another level within a game, or what specific features or clicks that they might be clicking on within the app. It's very similar to tracking your website, but now you can do it for your mobile app. The last aspect of our mobile reporting, which is really nice, is that now we have a dedicated set of mobile reports, and this is found under the Visitors section, and it's broken out by mobile devices and mobile carriers. So this really allows you to do better targeting because now you know which device is the most popular in sending you traffic or which networks to potentially target. Earlier this year, we've announced several advanced analysis features, pretty powerful tools that you can use within the UI, such as secondary dimensions and pivoting. In October, we added to this kind of stable of power features by including advanced table filters. So a lot of times you get a table, and even if you sort something, as here I've sorted by average order value, you get a lot of results that may not be statistically significant, and you want to be able to find the really valuable ones to start targeting. So instead of having to export into Excel, you can now use Advanced Filter to do this type of analysis. And you're able to filter by all the visible dimensions and metrics. So whatever dimensions and metrics that you see in that current report, you're able to filter by and do this in a Boolean and function. So here, I want to look at transactions where I've gotten more than 5 purchases, and I want to look at everything outside of the United States. So I can easily set up this advanced filter and run it, and bam, I get my report for all the countries outside of the U.S. where I've received more than 5 purchases. After this analysis, I can easily clear the filter, or I can edit and continue with it. Next, we're moving on to the unique visitor metric. This is one that I'm personally really excited about because I believe it's only Google Analytics offers a true unique visitor metric in the industry. And as many of you know, this oftentimes is a confusing term. A lot of times in other analytics packages, a unique visitor is counted multiple times. So if Peter comes to mysite.com every single day in a week, at the end of the week, when looking at the unique visitors metrics, they would say that there were 7 unique visitors, even though it was just Peter who came every single day. Google Analytics now offers the capability to get true unique visitor metrics, so we're deduping against any time period. And this is available in the custom reports. So it's not available in all the reports yet, but it's available in probably the most important one, the custom reports, because it allows you to slice and dice and get the data, dimensions, and metrics exactly the way that you want to see it. So again, we think this is really, really powerful if you want to see just exactly how many people are coming to your site or carrying out certain transactions. Great. So now we're moving on to the features that we feel really provide powerful customization of capabilities. And these are the features that are flexible to meet your unique reporting needs. The first set is multiple custom variables. Custom variables operate in a way similar to, if you're familiar or have used the set var custom variable, which previously allowed you to track visitors. And now with the multiple custom variables, we've increased it so that you can track at not only the visitor level, you can track segments based off of at the page level. So if visitors have visited the flight section or the hotel section, you're also able to track segments based off of actions that they've performed within a session, such as if they've purchased something, if they have logged in or out of their account, if they've added a friend to their network, and of course you can track at the visitor level. So this is really powerful if you want to understand how does behavior or conversions differ between those who are registered members and not registered members, or those who have subscribed to a newsletter or not. The custom variables are now viewable under the visitors report. So taking a look at the code here, which is all available on our developer documentation, is that for every custom variable, it's stored. Each custom variable is stored and sent in an index or a slot, and you would define it by giving the custom variable a name, such as member type, and each name has a value, and so there can be. So the value here could be the member type is premium, or it could be gold membership, and you can create multiple name value combinations. And then lastly, custom variables are also defined by their scope. Is it at a visitor level, session level, or a page level type of custom variable? What's really, really exciting is that on Monday we announced that now you can create advanced segments and custom reports with the custom variables. So that's like double dose of power here. Some best practice recommendations for using custom variables. And note that custom variables are something that we consider advanced implementation. So you really do want to be careful about how you implement this. Read through the technical documentations, and also a lot of our Google Analytics authorized consultants are available to help out if you have really, really deep technical questions that you might need help on. But some of the recommendations here are that because of the way the scope and quantity interactions work, you should take caution in defining your custom variables so that you don't inadvertently overwrite them. So one of the best practices is understand what type of segments you want to track. Do you want to track members versus non-members? Do you want to track, the actions of sign-ups for an email newsletter? Do you want to track like groupings of, content, like visiting the news and the sports section? So define what it is, the segments that you want to track, and then define the scope, based off of that. So you would assign each of the index slot a scope and only use that slot for that scope. So an example here is that I want to track members at the visitor level, and so I would say index 1 is just for visitor level. And then I also want to track the visit level, and I also want to track the page level. And I've set these 3 slots or these 3 indexes to be dedicated to those scopes. So let's say that for the index 3 custom variable, I could use that for every single page on the site. But if I wanted to track 2 different page level attributes, such as news and sports, I would say I would use news for that index slot 3, and if I want to also track sports, for that page, I would have to use another index slot. That's not one of the 3 that I've already defined. Otherwise, it would overwrite. So the other thing is that you can set 5 multiple custom variables at any one time. And as you go to a new page, you can set those custom variables for that page. So this a lot of this great information that was really nicely summarized was taken from one of our GACs, Actrometrics. You can find out more information at this article listed here. Some other technical specifics about the custom variables. Again, refer to the technical documentation on our code site. The length of any given custom variable has to be equal to or less than 64 bytes, and you can have up to 50,000 custom variables per web property. If you are using the UTM setvar, user-defined variable, please note that we will be deprecating that. It's not deprecated yet, but you should start transitioning over to the current custom variables. Great. So another way to add increased flexibility within your reporting is to share those segments in a custom report that you have with others. And we'll walk through an example of how we're sharing an advanced segment, and it's very similar to a custom report. So let's say that you create an advanced segment. Here we're looking at high site engagement, and you want to be able to share it, with another user. When you go into the Manage Advanced Segments, you can hit the Share button, and it'll pop up a link, and you can send this link in whatever format you want. Here, we're sending it as an email, but you can, send it via IM or, tweet it, I guess. Well, you don't want to tweet it, I guess. But and so when you send it and the user clicks on that link, it would automatically be imported into the first profile of their account. And so here, the advanced segment, you can see it's already brings up the advanced segment creation screen, and it shows that the page depth is greater than or equal to 3, visit duration is greater than or equal to 3 minutes, and that's how we've defined high site engagement. The user then has the ability to choose which profiles in their account that they want to apply this advanced segment to. So here I've applied it to several of them, and hit Create Segment, and it applies, you can see here now, it's applied that advanced segment. For custom reports, just so you know that when you're sharing a custom report, you're obviously not sharing the data, you're only sharing the custom report template, with the other person. It's just a similar kind of interface, and you would hit on Share here for sharing the custom reports. Well, great. Now we get to the features that I love the most. I think that they're the sexiest and most exciting. And the first is Analytics Intelligence. You may have heard a lot about this. What we think that this feature does is that it really allows you to spend time taking action instead of trying to sift through all your data to figure out what's most significant. Because what Analytics Intelligence does is that it monitors your site data and it surfaces anything that's an anomaly, anything that differs from what's expected. And you don't have time to go and look at all of your reports perhaps if something happened in Brazil and Argentina that you never even expected. Well, Analytics Intelligence surfaces these types of insights up for you. We think it's probably the first stop that you should go to when you log into your analytics account, and because you can see, you'll get alerts both, or you can see alerts on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. And what you see here is we'll tell you what we from an algorithmic perspective, what was expected, and then what was the change relative to what was expected here. So just taking a look at the daily intelligence alerts, you can see several things on this graph. Underneath the chart, you'll see the bars that indicate how many alerts there were. And you'll see these for both the combination of custom alerts and what we call automatic intelligence alerts. You'll also see that you can switch your view by looking at it from a metric perspective, or you can view it by dimensions. Another thing that you can do is that you can adjust the sensitivity. So if you want to see more alerts, you would set your sensitivity at high. And a high sensitivity means that there's a lower significance, and if you want to see the ones that are the most significant, then you would set the alert sensitivity to low. Another thing that's really nice about this is that if there's something, an anomaly that you want to investigate further, so why did traffic from Spain increase? You can automatically create an advanced segment right there in the interface, from the Analytics Intelligence. So it automatically pulls it out and, puts you directly into the advanced segment creation wizard, and says, for here it says, looking at Spain. And you can continue to build off of this. You can say, I want to look at Spain and look at, bounce rates. And then start to track or analyze your reports by this advanced segment. So Analytics Intelligence automatic alerts are the ones that are algorithmically driven and determined by Google Analytics, but maybe there are things that you want to set up and find out for yourself and be alerted on, such as maybe you're launching your own campaign, a marketing campaign, and you want to see if conversion rates increase by a certain amount, or if bounce rates drop by a certain amount, or just, you've launched it within a certain region and you want to be notified when traffic or purchases from New York have hit a certain threshold. Well, now you can do that by creating a custom alert. So you can just hit on the create a custom alert, and you're brought to the screen. You give it a name, and decide which profiles you want this applied to. You can also determine what period you'll want to receive this in, if it's on a daily basis, weekly basis, or on a monthly basis. The alerts will appear. It will appear within the product UI, but you can also have it emailed to you when the alert is triggered. And so you would define the conditions that create the custom alert and what you're looking for. So here I'm interested in looking at New Zealand, and when the visits there dropped by 5%, or 5% or more. So this is a really nice way for you to kind of track the things that matter the most to you and to be alerted of any big changes. Last on our list is annotations. This is a new feature that we recently announced at SPS Chicago this week and should be available in all of your accounts. We're really excited about this feature. It plays upon what we call tribal intelligence. And again, it makes Google Analytics more intelligent because now instead of looking at your data and seeing, big spikes or big dips and wondering what happened, you can have everyone in your organization annotate and explain, what happened that day. Did you release a new marketing campaign? Did you have a new website redesign? Was there a news story that just came out that coincided, with that spike? And instead of having to run around and ask your webmaster or someone in marketing or people in PR, now everyone has the access to create those annotations in Google Analytics. So when you look at your charts now, you'll see two things. One, if there is an annotation on the timeline chart, you'll see like a little call-out bubble, and that indicates that there's an annotation that's been made for that date. You can access and see the annotations by the little arrow at the bottom of the graph. When you click on that, you'll see that the annotations appear. Like most Google products, you have the ability to star the ones that are your favorite ones. So this helps you to easily see and mark the ones that are most important to you. And here you can see that we've created several annotations to explain that a Black Friday campaign just began. We're a global product. Those from Spain have noted that, hey, there's a jump in traffic due to a Spanish campaign that was being run. And so this makes it, again, really powerful to collect data and intelligence from around the organization. And this, again, kind of how we're thinking of it as tribal intelligence here. So if you wanted to create an annotation, it's very easy to do so. There's two different ways you can do this. One, you can click on the date itself, and you'll see the Create New Annotation appear. Or if you're already at the annotations window, you can just click on the Create New Annotation with a plus sign. When you create an annotation, you just type in whatever your comments are, and there are two visibility settings. One is shared, and that means that it's shared to everyone who has access to the profile. And the person who creates the annotation, their login will appear next to that. So you know who created that annotation, and you can easily, if you want to follow up and ask some questions, can easily do so. You can also create a private annotation. So maybe you just wanted to make your own note about what happened that day or what you're seeing on the chart and not have that shared. You can easily do that as well and just mark it as private. So then you click Save, and then you're done. So annotations is another really, really powerful feature that we've just added to Google Analytics. It's one of our most requested ones, and we hope that you'll enjoy it. So those are all the new features that we've recently announced, as well as some of the additional ones that we just announced this week. There will be, in the coming days, there will be some further announcements from our API team. We gave a little teaser about it at SES Chicago, such as some API announcements that include being able to get advanced segments through the API, and so you'll be hearing more about us in the coming days for that. I just got a question from one of my colleagues about when can you expect to see these features. For the annotations features and the ability to segment your custom variables, or to include custom variables in your custom reports and in your advanced segments, they will be coming out. They should be coming out in the next week. And then all of the other features that we've just reviewed today should currently be available. So you should be able to see multiple custom variables, all the analytics intelligence, the custom alerts, the expanded goals, and the mobile reporting currently in your accounts. In terms of additional resources and where you can go for more information, we always make announcements on our Google Analytics blog and include additional articles around how to use the features. So that's always a wonderful resource if you want to add that to your feed reader. We have an extensive help center which is available in over 30 languages that you can also search. And for a lot of the materials that a lot of the features that we've talked about here, especially the mobile mobile apps tracking as well as custom variables, you'll want to check out the Google Analytics Developer Docs. I wanted to put in a plug also for a Google Analytics individual qualification. That's a test that you can take, but the training materials for that exam is really robust, and it's really nicely done, and that's available for free. So if you wanted to just learn more about Google Analytics, please check out the Conversion University information. And then lastly, we have a worldwide network of over 150 Google Analytics authorized consultants. So they're there to help you, especially with advanced implementation, consulting, questions. If you would like additional training, please reach out to your analytics authorized consultants. So with that, I wanted to just go through some of the questions that we received and that were voted on by you all. And here I tried to choose the questions that were really related to the product, the new feature releases. A lot of the questions were around, you know, will we be adding a certain capability? And we really can't comment on too much on overall product roadmap, but we are taking in all of your feedback for future requests, and that's been really valuable for us. So thank you for asking those questions and letting us know. So the first question we got was, is it possible to add, or is it possible to use new custom variables as filter fields? So when you're setting up a profile, to use custom variables in the filter. And will this be available in the future? It isn't currently possible, but again, we are taking this as feedback for future product development. The second really, really popular question was asking if you could get Google Analytics and view it on your mobile phone or mobile device. And although we're not doing this directly, there are several great third-party providers that offer this capability. So for the iPhone Analytics app, it's an excellent app that you can view practically all of your Google Analytics reports on. And if you're using an Android-based system, Actualmetrics has developed this mobile GA for Android phones. The next question is around saying the documentation for multiple custom variables is clear, but wanted to find out how they could access the custom variable reports within the Google Analytics interface. Again, this should now be available to all users, and it can be found under the visitors reports, and there's custom variables, specific custom variables reports underneath there. If you're not able to see this, please let us know, because it should be rolled out to all users by this time. Next is that Google Analytics supports 20 goals, and when will custom reporting catch up and allow reporting against all 20 goals instead of only 4? So we're aware of this need and this current limitation, and our product team is working to enable this for early next year. And the last top question we had was asking if there's a way to set up a custom alert based on the numbers from a benchmarking report. And currently this isn't possible. The analytics intelligence and custom alerts are based off of I believe it's the 11 most common metrics and dimensions, and so they're based off the ones that are most commonly used. So if there are additional metrics and dimensions that you feel are really important, we'd be happy to take that in as feedback as we continue to evolve analytics intelligence. So I thought that this would take a little bit longer, so we actually have a lot more time. We can go to the moderator page where there are more questions, or if you have questions, I know my colleagues here have been answering some questions via the Q&A. We can also take it via that as well.
Maybe
let's start with the Dory. Okay. So should I switch over and Should I share this desktop? Okay, and I may need some of my colleagues to, well, I've reviewed a lot of these questions, and many of them are pertaining to features that that we're thinking of developing. So one of the questions is, how can I get numbers of how many visits it takes before a visitor I'm sorry, one of the questions is, how can I get numbers of how many visits it takes before a visitor converts? Obviously, this is a question that talks about attribution and so that's not something that we can actually provide right now, but it is, again, something that we are continuing to think about.
We have a question here, which is if it's possible to import data from like a Google Base feed into Google Analytics. That's definitely a big feature request that we are hearing, and so we're looking into what we can do there. It's definitely something we're going to pass on to the team.
Great. There's a question around, have the new features been included in the Google Analytics individual qualification? They have not. For the most part, they have not been yet added to the Google Analytics individual qualification, but they will be in the future.
All right, so we have a question here, which is, I work on small websites that get low traffic. What's the best way to make sure I don't get inundated with automatic alerts with intelligence? How can I lower the sensitivity? And so if you go into the intelligence alerts, you'll see a slider. That slider, you can drag it from left to right. And on the right side, it's more sensitive. On the left side, it's less sensitive. So if you want to get fewer alerts, just the alerts that are most statistically significant, then you want to drag it to the left. If you want to see anything that might be any kind of anomaly, then you want to drag it to the right. And there's 7 levels of sensitivity there, and so that should work out. And you can adjust this on the fly. So you don't have to set it once and then you're stuck with those alerts. Whenever you want to see those extra alerts or see fewer alerts, you can adjust the sensitivity. So good question there.
There's also another question around advanced filters and if it's able to make that filter stick in any way. The advanced filters as well as the pivoting features are only available for that report, so you can't actually save that. So that's but that is something that we're continuing to think about. Thank you for that question. So we have several questions here. So sorry, let me first introduce Nick. Nick, if you are a follower of our API or read the blog, Nick is our developer evangelist for the Google Analytics API and is deeply familiar with a lot of the technical aspects, especially multiple custom variables. I know that that's a popular question here. And so I can answer this first one that came up from Phil Matia. It says, I still don't really get the multiple custom variables. Do you need to use the API to use this feature, or is it something that non-techies can use as well? You do not need to use the API to use this feature, but you do need to be able to create the correct code and implement that onto your website in order for it to track those custom variables. But it is not something that requires the use of the API. Nick, there's this question asked from David Pavlico asking, will using custom variables affect the data from multiple domain tracked sites?
Right. So the way that custom variables work is you would set a custom variable, and then the next request that gets sent to Google Analytics, the data in the custom variable is sent to our servers, and then we process it. Now, there are 3 scopes or levels of custom variables. There's a visitor, a visit, and a page. And that corresponds to our data model of a visitor visits a site and sees a bunch of pages. So it depends on the scope of the custom variable on how that would work. So take, for example, the visitor level custom variable. What happens is whenever you set we'll take a step back. Google Analytics uses cookies to track visitors. Whenever you set a custom variable at the visitor level, that entire visitor, so for the first time we got the first visitor ID through the last time, will be always set with that same variable. So in the case of cross-domain, if a person visits the site on domain A and we have that same visitor ID on domain B 3 days later, that custom variable will be applied to that same visitor. The same thing happens for session. As long as you maintain the session information across domains, if a person starts a session or a visit on domain A and ends their session on domain B, but you've properly implemented cross-domain tracking, then we'll definitely maintain that session level information. Page is a little bit different. It definitely works. The thing with Page is that once you send the page view, that information is then gone. It's associated with that next page view. So there is really no setting of a page level custom variable and then having to persist that across domains.
So Nick, there's another question on the custom variables. It's, if you send more than the 50,000 limit of custom variables per session, will it overwrite old variables or not record the new?
So currently we track, currently Google Analytics is based, its data is based on a day. So if you send more than 50,000 custom variables in a single day, then we will only report the top 50,000.
Okay, so it just so it's not anything gets overwritten, it's just that we stop collecting it at that
Right.
point.
Well, we will collect it, but we'll aggregate everything else after the 50,000 as a other, similar to all the other reports we have in Google Analytics.
Thank you, Nick. There's a question from Diego Rodriguez. Asking about the new asynchronous tracking code snippet. It's not something that we brought up here, but it is something that we did launch somewhat quietly. And I think Diego just wanted a quick overview of that. Nick, do you want to talk about that, or I can provide the highlights of it?
Yeah, so the whole point of the asynchronous tracking is that a lot of, one of the big things we're doing at Google here is trying to speed up the web. And what we noticed is that the way we were currently using Google Analytics, the JavaScript tracking code, is that the way we would recommend people to set it up on their site is that because the way the browsers work, every script that gets loaded is done synchronously, which means all the other scripts wait. So when you load Google Analytics, your whole page waits until it's done loading, and then the next script runs. So what we did is we took a look at how we were loading it and improved upon it to make it load asynchronously. And so what that means is when you set the tracking code up in the new method with the new snippet, the browser will load the Google Analytics JavaScript tracking code separately, and then alongside all the other tracking codes, so it takes a lot less time to download. Part of this tracking code, to enable this, is that in some cases you might want to track certain events or page views before the tracking code is actually loaded to the site. So the way you specify tracking methods is slightly different, but it's a little bit more powerful because now you can track things before the tracking code is even loaded. You pretty much queue up different methods, and then once the tracking code is finally loaded, we execute all the pages and events that have been loaded up. And then, so what happens is you can track a page before the tracking code is loaded, and that way, if for pages that have heavy content, the results are a little bit more accurate.
Great. And just as a note for the asynchronous tracking snippet, just to let you know, it's something that we've made available, but in no way replaces the current GA tracking snippet. It's something that if you want to use to replace the current one, it provides the additional benefit of increasing the speed, as well as increasing, the accuracy and the data, as Nick has just explained. There's a question about, would there ever be a way that users can edit data within GA? And currently that's not something that you're able to do now, and I think that's not something that I think we've currently planned, but something that we will continue to let our product teams know about. Usually it's something that you would probably require exporting your data. So there's a question about having some sites running on older GA tracking code. And should I be concerned with the new features not working with the older tracking code? Nick, I believe all of the features are backwards compatible with the old code.
Yeah, so most of the features are. So nothing is back-breaking. Everything will still work. All the new features like custom variables have been added to the latest version of the GA.js code. So we recommend that you just reference that and use that. Now there is a difference on how you implement it. There's the async method and then there's the traditional method. Both of those have the same functionality, so you should be fine.
And yep. So we'll take like two more questions, and again, it seems like there's a lot of technical questions here, which is I'm glad that Nick is here to answer them. One, Nick, is that if we are using the user-defined field at the moment, is there any way to migrate the information to new custom variables?
It's a good question. Currently, there's not. What we did is when we launched the custom variables, we deprecated the set variable method. So it's something that you probably will want to migrate over to the new way, which is custom variables.
This last one, I think, is an advanced implementation question. It says, is there a way to group websites and create charts based off of multiple website traffic data? I have 12 sites. I want to see them all mapped against each other in one chart. Does that make sense, and is that possible? That sounds like it's a multiple domains or multiple subdomains implementation and getting the right code set up there so that it's all reporting into one profile, one report. Is that correct, Nick?
That's correct. So right now you can only see one profile, data for one profile. In account management, there is a high-level overview that shows you some aggregates in the same page. Really, the solution that we've seen a lot of people use is our API to do custom visualizations and new reports. And it's really easy to use, and it might be a solution for you.
Well, great. Thank you, everyone, for all of the questions. And we really appreciate it, and appreciate your taking the time to learn more about Google Analytics. And thank you to the team that's here, to the Google Analytics team here, who provided the support for this as well. Okay, thank you.